So welcome to the paradox of eternal life. And it was a good warming up, so to speak, that we already had with singing some songs, and great to hear some old songs. I always love it. And so this is the paradox of eternal life, the fifth episode, and today is like the paradox of the human body in time and space. Um, yeah, since we're here, we met at a certain time. We met at noon Central Time or 7 p.m. Central European Time. We met in space and time with an idea of that we can appear in front of a screen singing songs and breathing air and doing all these things, being located in a GPS location, a location with a GPS tag in a universe, in a solar system, in a Milky Way, in a solar system, in a galaxy, and yeah, among billions of other galaxies at the same time. But this is our paradox. We meet at, say, at the end of the universe. There's a little cafe at the end of the universe, and this is our meeting place. We meet here. I think it's called the No Regrets Cafe, and you're welcome. You're welcome to join. Would be wonderful. So thank you so much for being present here. Today is an interesting say moment together. There's, for one thing, there is science coming to assist us. On the other hand, there's psychology to assist us in a very different way than you would expect, because the way that we're looking at this is coming from a different perspective altogether. So it's not coming from space and time, but looking from it from outside of it, looking at space and time. And then you see, like, anything is possible if you look at it like that. So anything is possible. And what I mean with that is, like, there's some real serious possibilities of miracles, for instance, of occurrences that you cannot understand, that go beyond your perception and understanding, but at the same time are taking place. Even though they're not ruled by time or not by conscious doing, but it's still happening. So this, and amongst other discoveries today, we can start with some words of, in fact, a great example in the miracle work and using time and space for a whole different purpose altogether. Like, he's a great example. He doesn't need any introduction, I think so, but it's like when I read these words, you immediately start to recognize it as an actual occurrence that is happening in you. So, yeah, it starts with the Gospel of John. It's Gospel of John, say the third verse, and then the first paragraph. So that's what we take a look at now, just as a beginning contemplation, or you could call it like a new birth prophecy, which is already taking place in you. So, but here it is. I will no longer. So I'm just reading this to you because it's say a real miraculous occurrence altogether that I love to share. So here, this is John 3, 1 to 8, and it says here, this the new birth. There was a man of the Pharisees named Nicodemus, a ruler of the Jews. This man came to Jesus by night. It was dark, and he said to him, "Rabbi, listen, I need to talk to you. Like, we know that you're a teacher of God. For no one can do these signs that you do unless God is with him." And Jesus answered and said to him, "Yeah, most assuredly, I say unto you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." And Nicodemus said to him, well, how can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born? And Jesus answered, most assuredly, I say to you, unless one is born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. Do not marvel that I say to you, you must be born again. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes, but it's certainly there. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. So I just want to be still, silent for a moment with this. Just you can read it again if you want, or certain phrases, or you know what to do with it. And I'll come back in a moment. That's so great. So it's like, what is the similarity between you being born of the Spirit and the wind? That's so interesting. Like, you don't know where it comes from. Like, it cannot locate itself in time and space, really. But it's inspired, and it does things that don't seem to be logic in time and space, but actually are working out just fine, which is like a real paradox too. But it's like, that is the beauty of what is being shared. It's, yeah, you recognize this. That makes me incredibly happy to read this. I don't know how about you, but it's like so beautiful and so great to say, to literally breathe some of that spirit in. It's like there's such freedom in this expression that inspires like so beautifully. So I love that. I love that. So continuing with this, because it's, yeah, this is just how this meeting goes. We might as well just step first completely into a chat, maybe. Wait, that was very spontaneous. Okay, that's great. Yeah, what a coincidence. That's great. Ah, The Chosen. I don't know that one. I should watch it. So this is, yeah, that was Nicodemus. So this is first, let's start first with actually taking another look at the human species from a whole different perspective, in a way that you think like, huh, interesting that people do that. I didn't know that. So we're talking here about extreme sports. It's a couple of minutes of video in which you see people do something that you absolutely did not expect yourself to do, but they actually did it. And for what purpose, you would ask? I don't know. So let's take a look at it and see what the human, so like, yeah, the extreme way of being human, so to speak, in space and time, thinking that you're located going from A to B, located in a gigantic universe. I'm going to play a video.
It starts to eat itself because it starts to run out of fuel, and it starts to eat its own fat. You start to be like, why am I in this water? This is just insane. Why am I doing this? And it just got really spiraling negatively. It's all about that mental kind of side of it. So just pushing yourself. Okay, you can go a little bit further. Keep going, keep going. Everything else is going to be easy because I've swum in freezing cold water. You know, it doesn't faze me.
You know it's going to hurt at some stage, yet you're willing to expose yourself to that pain. What's really unique about endurance performance is that kind of element of how do I manage my thoughts? There's so much time to think. So when those kind of demons might arrive, how do you manage those demons? Some people undertake extreme endurance activities because of something that they have control over. They have a very clear reason, and it's because they want to do it. They enjoy the exercise. They enjoy kind of those challenges when we think about managing pain. They just love it. Some other people, they do it because of the community around it.
There will be highs and there will be lows. Being able to navigate and manage that is a real psychological strength. Completing these endurance events, we learn psychological techniques that can be used in our lives outside of sport. So understanding that we have an end goal, but we need to have a journey towards getting towards that end goal, and recognising those small achievements along the way.
You know, when we think about reflecting on reasons why you're doing it, having that kind of intrinsic motivation that comes from within, managing those negative thoughts, the perseverance, the grit to keep going, but also, yes, I might feel uncomfortable, I feel tired, but I can push through that, can be types of things that can be really helpful in other areas of life.
I'm Kevin Murphy. I'm known as King of the English Channel. I've swum the Channel 34 times. And within that 34, there are actually 3 doubles and 28 singles. People want to challenge their human frailties. I know I can beat the demons in my head which say, you can't do this. I know I can beat those.
More people have climbed Everest than they have swum the Channel. So it's a huge challenge. You could literally get like a kilometre away from France and the current will just change and you'd be swimming stationary. And you've got to be okay with swimming another 6 hours. So when I went to the swim camp, everyone's very hardcore. I said I wanted to do a 4-hour, and they said, yeah, okay, go for your 4-hour.
I was never a great swimmer. I was never very fast, and I was never especially fit. And yet I'm in the Swimming Hall of Fame. Now, how can that be? Well, it's because I had that willpower, that mental toughness, to be able to carry on. And that's what I try to instill in all the swimmers that I train. Swimming the Channel, you actually go way, way beyond what you think are your limits. It's not really a physical thing so much as a mental thing.
You had to swim for a long time before you got kind of any food. I just remember being really miserable. It was about 7, 8 degrees. Putting my face in the water, it just felt like it was burning. I'd be so frozen I couldn't move my hands.
What you take away from a channel swim is that mental toughness, that self-belief. You also take away a physical development of your body. I had an artery that ruptured. Because my heart was so strong and so big, a much bigger muscle than normal because of the swimming, that's why I'm here. I wouldn't have survived otherwise.
If we know that we've been able to overcome hard times, we've been able to push through some of those difficulties, then we know we can do it again. What motivates us is very different for each individual person. In terms of extreme endurance activities, it's an opportunity for individuals to test their limits and to see where their boundaries are.
My next challenge is probably going to be my business or going on to do another kind of sports swim. And so if you think about life, take that kind of mental attitude of saying, 50% of life is just saying that you can do it or you will do it, but you just have to believe it.
So that was just an introduction to the human extreme sports and human, say you could call inspiration to go beyond your limits. And I love these guys. It's great to see them. It's wonderful. Yeah, amazing what they do. Can't believe it. And pushing themselves further and further. But yeah, you could say why just basically to recognize that there's no limit to what you can do, or at least it's not the limit that you think that will determine how far you can go. So how useful is this in this paradox? It's like, well, what do you need to do? What do you need to do extreme sports? It's like what are the ingredients? And you could say like, well, there's space and time, right? You're going to swim for 6 hours across the channel, maybe longer, in order to do it. You go from A to B and then come back to A. And so it's like a belief in horizontalism, and that's your world. So you have your challenges there and you're going to work them out, and hopefully it will all work out. And luckily, because of you doing this, you have your advantage of a fit body, like that can yeah, even carry more difficulties and all this. It's like, all right, well, whatever you want to do, sure, whatever you want to do. So the thing is, like, there's a necessity for a belief in a body to do these things, even though you see, like, the mental part was the most important for all of them. And they were not talking about inspiration or spirituality or anything like that, but the focus really was on the psychology of this. So that's probably also part of it. But I use this as an example to see, like, even though this is extreme, yeah, people challenge themselves to perform, you know, to set something in motion, to make something happen. And yeah, another example is Wim Hof, yeah, sitting in as a birthday present, sitting in a bucket of ice for an hour on his birthday. Like, yeah, it's nice, refreshing, sure. That's a nice challenge. Who knows what your experience will be? It's great. I love Wim Hof too. It's like wonderful. That's great. Yeah. So you might have really different experiences too doing so. But that's not really why we're here. It is just taking a look at it, not judging it or not thinking it's bad or whatever. It's like, no, this is just a BBC documentary showing you this is what people do in extreme sports. See, it is a belief, at least in a place. That's one thing that will come back today too. It's like, it's a belief in a place. It's a belief in a body. It's a belief in an identification with something that is temporary, and that we recognize all. You know, that's the same thing. Like, we recognize our temporalness here too. Like, you're temporary here, right? It's like, yeah, there's no such thing as death, but your earthly sojourn, so to speak, is a temporary occasion, a temporary thing. It will not last forever. You're not going to be on Earth forever. So that's all interesting in the whole idea of paradox. Continuing on with, yeah, I'm going to share the sheets first. So I have another video coming up, also very interesting to me, to see how extreme that is as a human activity. But first we do this. It's like sharing this right one. Yeah, here it is. So it's like, look at this picture only. It's like, that's already pretty amazing. The paradox of the human body in space and time. You see an incredible rocket going up. Like, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to get ourselves into space with a rocket fueled with so much fuel and so much horsepower to get ourselves into the universe. So I think the maximum speed is like 100,000 kilometers an hour. It's like that would be the max. So, and we have problems with that because we would love to go light speed to all kinds of places, but that's not that's not part of the possibilities right now. But look what we do. We make this thing and put a body in there to go into space, into something out there, into something that appears to be outside yourself, and you fly into it with lots of risk and a lot of investment, a lot of energy put into it to make it work. And so where, the question would be like, where are you heading when you're in that rocket? Where are you going? Are you still here and now? Are you still like just yourself being in the present moment, or is there another happening going on, like a dream of moving into space and meeting other entities and doing this and that, and who knows what you might see after a long time waiting to arrive at a place, like 7 years to Mars or who knows what. You know, all this is what we do. We sit in a little enclosure and go into space to wait until something has been seen, and where you can't breathe, where you cannot do anything else, and you're weightless, and all these extremities. It's like, that's so extreme, it's unbelievable. And we're doing all that, like, as a humanhood. And there are others that sit in a chair or sit on a meditation pillow and just sitting there waiting and relaxing and breathing, not going anywhere, just being right there with themselves. Really interesting. What an incredible picture here. So I continue. So it's good to see you again within this memory package of the idea that we could have been separate from God. The idea that you occupied a body in which you had to breathe oxygen and carbon and nitrogen and all the other molecular associations of identity that manifests your idea about who you are, and they're not true. And they are not true. It's just not true. So it's like, this is the dream. So you swim to England or you swim to France and you think that you're breathing oxygen and going somewhere. It is not true. It is not happening. It is not happening. In your dream, yes, but it's not happening in reality. It's not true. It's not happening. So that's an interesting paradox, right? You see it on television. You can imagine the guy swimming there. You feel you want him to get to the other side, and all this, like, you got all kinds of engagement going on. You're part of it suddenly, of his dream, and dream with him a little moment. But it's not true. It is not true, and it's not bad to do it, or it's wrong to do it, to go into his dream for just a second, but there's no reality in it. It is just an idea. So that is like, to be, you could say, like the paradox of perception, understanding, and reality. Like that's a huge paradox in itself. You really think that you're seeing something. You really think that you're going somewhere. You really think that you're eating something. You really think there's such thing as time. You really hurry up to be on time somewhere. It's like all these things are temporary in your imagination, working so that you can wake up out of it. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love to look at it like that. So here it's mentioned a memory package. So with this memory package of the idea that you could have been separate from God, like, how can I arrive at a place too late? How can I do all these things? That can only be a memory, because in reality there's only one moment, and it would never be possible to be too late or too early or to, to anything. Yeah, imagine breathing life every moment instead of oxygen and carbon and nitrogen. But just light. Light is what you breathe. Life is what you breathe. So different. And you really think that you need oxygen, that you can miss out on it and even die if you don't get enough of it. Okay, so here's dark form. You could say dark form. That's the human body. Do you see how you're identifying yourself, Mr. Body, Mr. Anybody? Do you see how you hold on to yourself in your determination to be contained, to be a containment of that body, and find other bodies that share your forlorn admission that you're in this little senseless pain of dark form? Do you see how you're identifying yourself, Mr. Body, Mrs. Anybody? Do you see how you hold on to yourself in your determination to be the containment of that body and find other bodies that share your forlorn admission that you're in this little senseless pain of dark form? So interesting, so great. So the light is all around. Until you begin to see the light that's all around you, you cannot see that you have been entrusted with the gifts of God, which represents eternal life. So until you begin to see the light that's all around you, you cannot see that you have been entrusted with the gifts of God, which represents eternal life. Time is a sleight of hand, a vast illusion. So what is the shortest measurable time? Is then the scientific mind thinking. What is the shortest measurable time? And does it have anything to do with now? So this is the moment where we're actually going to take a look at that and have three profs speaking to us, like three profs who know what they're talking about. It's great to see it, just for the real fun of it.
Like something smaller than nanoseconds.
Yes, yes. You take the Planck length, it's a length, it's much smaller than my hand, and you divide it by the speed of light.
Well, is it really the smallest interval of time? I mean, we don't know that, but if we wanted to construct a very short interval of time from the Planck length, we would just take the Planck length of 10 to the minus 35 meters and divide by the speed of light, which is 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. And lo and behold, if we do that division, we'll get the Planck time, which is something like 10 to the minus 43 seconds.
And that is meant to be the time after which the Big Bang has gone into the realm of physics that we know, according to most people's beliefs, because you really can't test that out.
No one can measure it, of course. It's so far, so much smaller than the nanoscale. I think the shortest time interval that people have been able to measure is called an attos. I think it's an attosecond. It's about 10 to the minus 18 of a second. So this is way smaller than that.
So the Planck time, before that, there's a Big Bang, Planck length of time, and then after that, laws of physics are as we know it. We don't know what happened before.
Now, what is the significance of that time? Well, I think the most significant aspect of it is that we certainly haven't got any idea of what physics is like at that length scale or time scale. So that's something about this idea of the foaminess of space and time. It would be down on that length scale, and it's got something to do with some physics we don't understand involving quantum mechanics and gravity.
So what's its use? Its use is primarily in theories, in the sense of trying to understand when you might expect quantum gravity effects to have to come into place, when we need to really understand how to quantize gravity. At the moment, we don't really understand that. We have models to try and do it, but so we're happy to push models using classical gravity down to about that scale, although we probably shouldn't. But I think most people at that scale would throw their hands up in the air and say, we don't know what's going on. We need to have a proper quantum theory of gravity.
this is then three quantum physics guys, like theoretical physics people, that are talking about a moment of like an attosecond, which is 10 to the minus 18th of a second, like, okay, very small, yeah, it's very short. And even smaller things should be possible, but they can't measure it. So that's the problem right now in physics, then you can't measure it. So it's just a think model to go deeper into, I don't know what. So how is that going to help you to enter into a present moment? Like, does it bring you closer to a present moment by knowing that? And that is so interesting. It's like because we're looking for something, we're looking for the now. People would love to measure the now, that they could find it, the exact moment of now. You know, this is what you practice too in your spiritual practice. You want to discover the now. You want to enter into the now. The past is gone, the future not there, but the now. The now has nothing to do with time. Like, even though it's called now, it has nothing to do with time. So there's something else going on altogether. That's why they can't find it by measuring or theorizing about it, because it's beyond understanding and beyond perception. So they arrive, you see this too in this video, they arrive at this conclusion already theoretically. It's like, it's actually impossible to do this. Up to the point where we can think in these small parts, we don't know anything. It's what he literally said. And I love these guys because they're really going for it. Like they're really going for it to find it. You know, there's a lot of passion and it's like they dedicate their lives to finding that little moment that they will never find. Not this way. So then the miracle happens and you ask, like, well, if I can't find this, there must be another way of coming into the now. And this is what you have discovered now by say, coming to these classes or meditating or reading certain books. Like, there's a way to come into the now that has nothing to do with your understanding and with your perception. You don't have to measure it. You don't have to compare it. You don't have to analyze it. So all these things that we have been doing in science, we step it up to conscience. You know, we step it up to conscience. And that is great. So it's nice to see actual physicists talking about what they're doing and coming to the place where they don't know. Like, no idea. They can hardly think about it, about what that would be. And this is, in fact, the place where it becomes really interesting. At least for me, I love to go beyond that. Like, there must be something else that we can discover by going deeply beyond our, say, limits of conscience. And that's always the invitation too at the meetings here. So you go to the outer edges, not that there are any, the outer edges of your consciousness, and look for more expansion, more love, more light, more, yeah. So going back to my set of sheets, so the attosecond, time is a sleight of hand. So I'll tell you this already, so you don't have to go through this scientific research to find the moment. Time is a sleight of hand, a vast illusion. So the shortest measurable time doesn't give us anything. It's not going to bring us into the now unless you go beyond it, like you can go beyond all your perception and enter into the now. So here's the thing, you have to undergo an experience, just like we said in the beginning. Know ye not that you must be born again. So I'm here within your own time frame, whatever you think you are in this short 40,000 years of humanhood, in which you manifest yourself, showing you the entirety of the inevitable capacity for you in an evolutionary process, like we saw the other day too, the Christogenesis, first the new Genesis and then the Christogenesis. So you have the inevitable capacity for you to enter into an evolutionary process, to undergo an experience that will eliminate the necessity for you to remain in that cocoon of nothingness, in which you're going to analyze every aspect of it until you discover that you don't know anything. So here's the possibility of a new experience. So the body's potential for transformation. Your mind has been so preoccupied with definitions of yourself, with needs to justify that existence. Your mind has been so preoccupied with definitions of yourself, with needs to justify that existence, that the idea that you could begin to practice non-defensiveness, the idea that you could begin to experience alternatives that were not contained within the contingencies of self-identity, is actually what is occurring. So what does this mean? What does this mean? It's a real master-teacher sentence. It's like you have been so preoccupied with your ideas about yourself that now you are in fact ready to go beyond that and start to begin to experience alternatives to your definition of yourself. Beyond the human body in time and space, your education, your conceptual identity, your occupation, your need to define yourself in a body have all burdened you with your body identity that ensure the sickness and death that are inevitable in your conceptual self. None of them are true. There's no world. Like your education, your conceptual identity, all the ideas about yourself, your occupation, your need to define yourself in a body, have all burdened you with your body identity that ensure the sickness and death that are inevitable in your ideas about yourself. None of them are true. There is no world. So I promised this paradox class to be a healing class, like to actually be a healing class. And so how does this come together today then? How does that work today? Because what we have seen and what we have heard is all still like very much at the beginning, the fundamental construction of the human identity, of your separation ideas. So how do we get out of that? In that sense, how can this be a healing moment in which you discover something new for yourself? Well, see, the great discovery that you could have is that all the ideas that you're holding on to in your humanhood, or that are represented by you in your belief that this is a real place and that this is time and space, that this is your body, that this is this, and so forth, is then you see that you do that. So if you would say receive another idea about yourself, another experience of yourself, like suddenly you experience yourself out in the universe without a rocket, or suddenly you experience yourself full of light, as a fountain of light inside yourself, or receiving a grey shower, love and light just pouring over you for no reason whatsoever. You didn't do anything for it, you didn't examine it, you didn't force it, or none of that. It was just freely given to you. What does happen with you is then that say sets in motion a whole response of losing necessities. So you lose so many necessities, and this is what you actually feel coming in letting go of ideas about yourself. Like there's a lot of necessities that I will ask in a moment in the whiteboard idea, like I will ask you, what necessities do you see? What do you think is really necessary for you that you should not forget in your human experience of yourself? What is absolutely necessary? Because you'll see what happens with that. When I say necessities, it's almost like, so what are your occurrences at this point, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, socially? What are happenings at this point where you find yourself that you think like, well, I need to take care of that. Or this is my situation. Maybe that's the best description. Like, this is my situation where I find myself. This is how that looks. If you can give me like a couple of lines of that in the whiteboard that I'm gonna open, that would be great. You could say like, what is defining me at this point? Just honestly, what is your description of yourself? And in that, like, there's a necessity, because you're literally working on this to make this happen, or to keep this going. I hope that I'm clear. So feel free to join in in sharing where you find yourself. How do you see yourself in your daily life, I could say. Nice. All right, so I'm reading some of it, or all of it. What is your description of yourself? How do you see yourself? Confusion is so clear. It's scary otherwise. Confusion. Anger is so clear. Confusion, anger is so clear. It's scary otherwise. Illimité, unlimited. In and out, it says here. Instrument, transparency, and out of topic too. One, new. Feeling, being in transition, confused and not confused, living in the non-judgmental state, stopping to plan and fix, and I don't like my new grey hairs. I had control, but if I let go, then I don't have it. I feel like lost. I'm getting understanding of my wrong. How then do I have the humility to admit it? I don't have tools for that. I'm getting understanding of my wrong. How then do I have the humility to admit it? I don't have the tools for that. Switching between two worlds. Don't want the old and don't know how to love in the new one yet. I was waiting for an opportunity to work at something I can enjoy. Now it came and I'm impatient to start. See, so we find ourselves in all kinds of places. All right, so yeah, going to, yeah. All right, so I'll leave it for this now. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so take this off too. So the healing part, you could say, like the healing part. So what is all this about? Why are we watching this? Why are we talking about this? Why is this, yeah, how can this ever become a healing moment together? See all the necessities that we just wrote down, like all the things that you think you have to do or not, but like all the things that you have to do or keep in place in order to, yeah, at least have it the way that you know it, is one thing. But see, here in the awakening, in the say discovery of your new self and the whole different experiences that you have connected to that, is giving you a whole new idea about yourself. And that whole new idea about yourself comes also with, say, in deliberate letting go of the necessities, the necessities for existence. And that is the real, say, spiritual trajectory. That's really where it happens with our awakening. Like, that's, you cannot deny, because you can say like, well, I don't need money, I'm sustained by the love of God, it will come one way or another, and which is great. I'm not saying that you shouldn't say that, but more like, well, now the rubber meets the road is what I'm saying. It's like, now the rubber meets the road. You can have ideas about it. That doesn't mean that you accepted them. You can voice them, but did you accept them? Is it your experience? So this is in fact a paradox. Like, it's a different level of acceptance that you get yourself into. If you are really like sustained by the love of God, who knows how this might look? Who knows how your day will be filled? That's not of your own description any longer. You know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But see, here the healing aspect, for instance, connected to an idea of body, yeah, that makes it really different. If you experience yourself as this light being that you truly are, if you feel that you are sustained by the love of God, that you feel the love of God running through you, or getting in touch with it, or being so incredibly full of love for your Creator, you lose, in fact, the necessity for the sickness of this body, for the turmoil that was in your life just a moment ago. Like, all these things start to disappear, in fact, like, because they have no reality. So by your intent changing, coming into a spirit, say, inspiration, a real, like the descent of the Holy Spirit in you, being born again in water and in the wind, water and spirit, that makes it that the necessity to become sick is gone. Like, there's no reason to hold on to your whatever your disease was before, or whatever your situation was before, whatever ideas you could have about your relationships anymore. Like, all these things start to change, and because of your recognition. So then the only it's like your memory package is like out of date. You cannot refer to that any longer. It was like this, cloud. We have these internet clouds with pictures and with who knows what kind of expressions, and this was your human memory package that is somewhere up there, and you're actually not. You can actually take a look at it. This is what you've learned. You can take a look at it without engaging in it. Like, it's there. I don't need to do anything with it. Like we say in meditation, like, letting the ideas go by, or your thoughts come up and let it go by like the clouds in the sky. So that is the occurrence. You see it up there, you can see it in your mind, your cloud of thoughts, and it's just a cloud. It's continuously in movement, and you can put as much attention to it as you want, but it's not you, because you're actually able to look at it. So now, coming closer to this, because this is all memory, it's all gone, it's over, it's old. It's like it's a past, your past memories are in there. So it brings you nothing new, like there cannot be something new being created out of that, however great the ideas seem to be. So here you move closer, while looking at your cloud of thoughts, like you leave them, you move closer and come actually into the present moment. Like that's a real occurrence happening now, happening like it's available to you in every moment, despite of what you were thinking a moment ago, despite of what you were experiencing like an hour ago, whatever. It really doesn't matter. So here is then, in fact, your insertion with light and love, your possibility to communicate with everything that is. And that takes away all the necessities that you describe to yourself right now. That takes care of it. Like none of it has anything to do with it. And that is a real, say, healing possibility in coming to this this moment, seeing that all our measurements and all our ideas about extreme limit testing of human possibilities, all this stuff can be put in the cloud. That's where it came from too when we watched it. It's like literally out of the cloud. We look at it, but it's not us, it's not me, it's not my identity. So letting that go, entering into a present moment is where I suddenly meet you. You know, it's like suddenly I feel presence. I see that everyone is present here in this, and that I did not miss out on anything, because it's literally all taking place here. Like we saw it in one of the slides, like you discover you are everything, like you're limitless. You're not bound by the limitations of a body or the description of a body. You're not limited by any of that, and that makes it possible for you to heal, getting out, in other words, getting out of your memory package that you are used to. So that is the offering. That is what I love to share with you about that. It's like that is where something really fundamental is happening. And that is taking place in this moment. It cannot take place in another moment. It's literally like knowing that this cloud is up there and that it has nothing to do with your identification. It was just momentary. It was just a moment of playing with those ideas, giving them energy, losing yourself in it, thinking you could be separate from everything that is, because that's one of the ideas there too. Like that is a past station, if you want. It's a past station. And getting into a moment where you're free of that is now where you are directed to. That's where you are invited to. And then step by step you get deeper experiences of that, and you start to love the idea of staying in the moment and say allowing every moment to be new, not by your definition, not by what happened yesterday. So it's like an automatic self-forgiveness procedure that you're in, continuously letting go of your ideas, because they are not you. It is not a fact. It is an idea, a temporary idea. So that was in fact what I love to share with you. So we saw, like in just about an hour, we saw the paradox of the human body in time and space. So it literally disappeared out of it by the recognition of who you are, by recognizing that in yourself, that even the idea of a body in time and space is an idea. Because even the physicians, unlike the physics guys, can't measure the shortest time because it's not there. Like it will not give you any information. And we discovered here that beyond your understanding and perception is a whole universe out there that you don't have to go to with a rocket, but you can immediately enter into every aspect of it because you are communicating with that. So yeah, let's go. Let's celebrate that and be in that and let go of any kind of idea, just as a scientific, conscientific experiment. And so thank you for everything, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.